Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining our live Q&A on Launch 4th for HP Mars Home Planet. I'm Sean Young from HP. I'm the Worldwide Segment Manager for AEC and Product Development. And I have some very special guests with me here today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Rick Champagne. I'm the Global Strategy and Marketing Manager for NVIDIA, doing media and entertainment specifically.
Hi, I'm David Witters. I'm with Technicolor. I'm a VFX supervisor with the TEC Experience Center in Culver City, where we do amazing virtual reality using HTC Vives like the one on my headset.
And on Dave's back, he has something very special. This is what we've been cooking up here in our headquarters for HP workstations right here in Fort Collins, where we're broadcasting from. And Dave, if I can have you turn around, he's wearing the ZVR backpack, the HP ZVR backpack, which is a full-on workstation designed for VR, designed to go on the back so you could walk around without tethers and have a full untethered experience in VR.
Long range, untethered.
And it's got an NVIDIA Quadro P5200 GPU, and we're here with NVIDIA today, and it's really just an incredible product for VR. So go check it out, hp.com/go/ZVR backpack, one word. So we have a lot of exciting things to talk about today, VR and concept design. But before we get started, it just so happens that today in Irvine, California, is the annual convention for the Mars Society, Dr. Zubrin's Mars Society. Robert Zubrin is the president of the Mars Society and the author of this book, The Case for Mars. So we have a special message from Dr. Zubrin at the Mars Society annual convention.
I'm Robert Zubrin.
Hey, I'm Shannon Norell, HP, and we're here at the Mars Society meetup in UC Irvine, yeah?
Right, and of course the Mars Society stands for Humans to Mars, but HP's got a way that we can send millions of humans to Mars as avatars by virtual reality.
Yeah, it's all about ideating and basically thinking through a giant thought experiment where we can build a habitat and a virtual colony on Mars to support up to 1 million people.
Right. Now just think about this. NASA has this big rocket coming along called the SLS. They don't know what to do with it. This rocket could be used to send a 20-ton payload to land on Mars. Well, that could support a human Mars expedition, but before we do that, we could land an army of robots on Mars and send them around with cameras and send back all the data of an area thoroughly scouted for a virtual reality landscape. And then people here on Earth could go explore that themselves, and it wouldn't be pretend exploration; it would be real exploration.
Yeah. You know, I think it's the most noble experiment of our day, and I think it's great to be part of trying to figure this all out for humanity at large. And everybody can contribute. It's not just the scientists. We've got artists, we've got architects, engineers, interior designers. You know, we need to think through this grand thought experiment to make a colony on Mars happen.
All right, so let's go.
All right, rock and roll.
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks so much, Robert and Shannon, at the Mars Society convention. Lucky you guys. But we're here in beautiful Fort Collins, and why don't we talk about HP Mars Home Planet and give you a little bit of insight of how this project came in and what we're trying to accomplish and what you can do starting right now. So we're trying to do nothing less than reinvent life on Mars, and we need all of your help to get this done. This is an opportunity for you to do something fantastic. Why we're here today is because in 2016 we worked closely with NASA to get our HP Z-Books up onto the International Space Station. So we actually have today Z-Books up on the International Space Station that are being used by astronauts for all kinds of things, and of course they're launched up there on SpaceX rockets. We actually have one of our subject matter experts from Made in Space, who unfortunately Michael Snyder couldn't be here with us today because of the situation with the hurricane in Florida, but he's going to be standing by to answer all your questions about Mars, about space, and about designing within the constraints of science, and he's got experience working with the astronauts, 3D printing with HPZ workstations up on the International Space Station. So we said, okay, this is fantastic. HP and NVIDIA technology up on the International Space Station. What can we do next? Where do we go next? Well, NASA's going to Mars. We want to go to Mars too. So NASA and the rest of the space industry is focused on getting humans to Mars and getting them to live up there. We said, let's take it a step further, and let's focus on this far out likelihood that one day there will be 1 million people living on Mars, and let's tap into the collective brain trust from around the world, architects and engineers and mechanical engineers and civil engineers and students and retired scientists, everybody who has something to give and the time to give it, and let's develop a society on Mars. Using the skills and the software and the hardware that you use in your day jobs, but you don't get to design things for Mars in your day jobs. This is your chance. And we're not doing this alone. We're doing this in partnership with the industry's leading graphics and VR companies you could see on this page. We have NVIDIA and Technicolor. David here is from Technicolor. Fusion, who created the Mars 2030 VR experience. Autodesk, the leading design software company. Unreal, Game Engine, Launch Forth, the platform we're all working on, and HTC Vive, the headset that David was wearing previously. So it all starts with the Mars Urbanization Challenge, and this is an actual competition that you could win prizes in. It's sort of a co-opetition because you also have subject matter experts like David and like Mike and others from Autodesk who are standing by to help you, to give you guidance and feedback on your submission. So we want to do something great here. We want to help you to do it and inspire you to do it by bringing all these incredible people together. It starts off with the conceptual design competition, which is the phase we're in now. After that, we're going to move to the 3D modeling competition and then to the 3D rendering competition. And we're going to bring all these models and ideas to life with the guidance of David and his team at Technicolor in a virtual reality experience that is created by all of us collectively. This is a co-creation effort. People around the world contributing to bringing this future utopian Mars society to life in virtual reality, consisting entirely of assets and content created by you. So we've created this community with our partner LaunchForth to make this happen. LaunchForth.io. I mean, you're here, so I don't have to give you an URL. And we have an incredible roster of judges, really leaders in their field, and we'll talk more about them. The one pictured here is Daniel Liebskin, the architect. And we have subject matter experts like David. We have exclusive resources like special trial versions from Autodesk. And of course, great prizes from HP and NVIDIA. Here are some of those prizes. So just for the concept phase, the first of the 3 competitions, we have nearly $40,000 in amazing HPZ workstations, ZBook mobile workstations, all with NVIDIA quadrographics. And these are the tools that you all need and use to get this type of work done. Engineering, architecture, 3D art, design, gaming. It happens on HPZ workstations with NVIDIA quadrographics. We also have a really cool magazine in digital format, and it's available for you right in the challenge page. If you click on the link to download the How It Works magazine, you'll see it there, and it's fantastic. Lots of great content. So just a quick recap where we're at. We're at the beginning of this year-long program that wraps up. This phase wraps up in November. So you have until October 15th to submit your entry into the concept design phase. We're here to help you get a fantastic entry, and we wish you really good luck in winning these prizes. And then we're going to move on to the other phases: 3D modeling, rendering, and co-creation on virtual reality led by Technicolor. So thanks all for your participation in this program. And now I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague here, David, from Technicolor, who has tons of experience in conceptual design, in feature films and other really cool space-related projects. So, David, I wondered if you might want to talk a little bit about what you've done and what your advice is to folks who are trying to create a vision for the future of humanity on Mars.
Okay, thank you, Sean. It's great to be here and part of this broadcast. Thank you. The hardware that you guys provide is amazing. I work on a Z840 myself with an NVIDIA 1080, and it handles the Mars scene amazingly well. So we're in the concept phase, and I want to talk a little bit about concept art. We're looking for ideas right now, and concept art is exploring ideas. It's coming up with concepts and communicating your ideas in a piece of art so that others can conceive it, understand it, design it, develop it, right? So there's a little bit of misinformation out in the community as to what concept art is. We see these beautiful pieces, and they're kind of adaptations of matte paintings that have become concept art. So if you're developing an amazing idea, please don't be discouraged by the masters out there that do these amazing pieces of work, because really we're in the idea phase. We want ideas. So it's about function and then how form follows function initially. So as we go into the modeling phase, which will be the next step of the challenge, the concepts will be used to develop the models, and then the models to develop the renderings and the virtual reality experience. I believe we have some questions coming in about concept art.
Yeah, well, while we start queuing some of those up, some of the things that we want people to think about for the concept phase. So, you know, it all started with what Shannon and Dr. Zubrin were talking about. It's that thought experiment. There's one big question right there. And that question is, and we're saying, you know, a home for 1 million humans on Mars. That's a very interesting question to ask, because that says a lot of things. That says far, far into the future. So what are the things that are going to have happened between now and then in the world? So these are things, you know, I was watching the show Brain Games, I don't know if you've seen it, and they show people this line art, and it just looked like a tree with some lines sticking out of it. And they asked adults, in 5 seconds, tell us all the things that this picture could be. And the average adult comes up with 3 suggestions in that 5 seconds. And then they ask those same adults the question, but this time they say, think like a child. Now tell us how many things you see in this picture in 5 seconds. And then they come up with like 5 to 7 responses.
Interpretation, yeah.
And so it's a change of mindset. And so, you know, when we go back to that original question, I remember you came up with, you know, a home for 1 million humans. And, you know, I remember, you know, people going like, well, that's a little too far out, that's a little too far-fetched. But realistically, what that does is it changes the mindset. So when you're thinking about your concept art, think about a future where, you know, today, AI is a big deal, but, you know, we're just at the beginnings of it. How far will that have progressed, and what are the new things that will be possible because of robotics and because of, you know, all the deep learning and, you know, who's going to be, you know, Dr. Zubrin said we can send a payload with lots of robots to start the exploration. We can actually have a lot of things pre-built before we even get there, which is amazing. You know, so these are some of the things to think about in the concept art. Do you have some questions ready from the audience?
Yeah, I do. But one thing I want to add to that is, I was thinking the other day, you know, you fast forward to this civilization of 1 million humans on Mars, and think about like the Star Trek and Star Wars movies. It's likely that most of these people are going to be highly educated and involved in the sciences. So you'll probably have children that are going to be coming up with just some incredible science-informed ideas. Because if you're living in an extreme environment, you've got to be thinking about science.
Those extremes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
How to adapt to them.
And by the way, to inspire you, I encourage you to check out this the How It Works magazine. It's got some incredible illustrations and stories about, for example, the classroom of the future and what life on Mars may be like. So just a little bit of inspiration is there for you to download. Now we have some questions. A couple of questions are about I'm not an artist, but I have some great ideas. What do I do? So one thing you can do, and there's another question about teams. How do I form a virtual team? So I'll try to answer both of those questions. And Chance, just yell if I'm getting anything wrong. Chance is the producer behind the camera there. So first of all, if you're not an artist, that's okay, because one of the award categories is the most scientifically informed submission. So I think it's perfectly acceptable to submit a drawing with a pencil sketch or a crayon sketch or whatever, but back it up with some math, back it up with a story of how your invention works, what is your idea about, and you could still win an award for that. There's also the other extreme, award for the most beautiful design that's not as scientifically informed, but just a cool idea or a nice presentation. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
inspirational, yeah.
Yeah. And now forming a team. So anybody can create a virtual team. That's the amazing thing about the Launchforth platform. You can have a team of people that you share physical space with, or you can have a team of people that you don't even know and form a virtual team, people who share common interests. And to do that, I believe I'm getting this right, Chance, this is where you yell. So you start a submission and you post a discussion inviting people to give you their member names if they want to join, and then you will invite them.
Yep, and then on your entry there's a form field to add teammates. And that'll send them an invite, and then they can join in. You can co-collaborate together on your entry, and it's just private to your team.
So as long as you have their user or member name, you can add them to your team.
Yes.
And that's how you can form a virtual team. And how to get these connections going, I would think the best way is using the discussions feature in the platform and the challenge. And you could put out a call for virtual teammates. Okay. Let's see, I have to look. Anything else to add, guys, while I look at the questions?
So this HP NVIDIA partnership right here started over 15 years ago. Sean and I actually worked together on a product called Painter, which was widely used for concept art. And so at that time, we were visiting customers, we were representing product management, and one of the customers that we went to visit was Ryan Church. And Ryan was working at Skywalker Ranch at the time. He was working on, I believe it was Attack of the Clones. He was the art director for that film. And he's been concept art supervisor for other Star Wars films, which is, partially why I'm wearing the Star Wars shirt today. But Ryan is absolutely unbelievable. And just to tie into some of the things Sean said, what he does, he went to school at Art Center in Pasadena. And so his concept art is and he studied automotive and other things. So his concept art is informed by real world things. So really, we have the subject matter experts available to you. So if there are questions you have about the 3/8 gravity on Mars or some of the physics and surviving dust storms and other things, you can pose those questions into the forums and get some answers for that, so that you can ground your designs in reality. And not coincidentally, but Ryan Church is now a judge for the concept art phase. So we're really excited about that. We also have Android Jones, who is another amazing artist. He started off concept art at ILM also. He also worked at Nintendo, so if you remember all the Metroid Prime stuff, that came out of the mind of Android Jones. And now he's an amazing artist. He's also a VR expert and created Microdose VR. So we've also got Android on as a concept art judge. And do you want to talk about some of the other judges?
We have Daniel Liebskin, as I mentioned, Dr. Robert Zubrin. There's a few surprises that are in the works, so check our judges page. We also have confirmed our very own Stacy Wolf, who's the chief industrial designer for HP. But check our judges page, and we'll continue to add more judges. I wanted to get to a question about transportation and infrastructure. So what we're thinking about infrastructure is more the built environment. So what's your idea for the built environment around Mars? How do you sustain life? Is there one massive, like walled-in or glassed-in city, interconnected colonies, or if we completely terraform the planet, infrastructure in terms of utilities, water extraction, energy creation, etc. So think about those things. We wanted to have a very specific topic for transportation because, what's really exciting to me about transportation is thinking about it in the context of Mars, where you don't have the built environment. We get to design the built environment from the ground up. Then we can reinvent what transportation looks like and not create the same mistakes we made here on Earth. And ideally, and this is a little optimistic, but ideally, maybe we can all come up with ideas that we could use today on this planet to improve our transportation system. So I think of this project as sort of a petri dish for these experiments that we might be able to bring to life here on Earth. And for example, how do we bring those things to life? Well, if you come up with an amazing idea for a vehicle, and in the 3D modeling phase, model it in 3D, we can actually, HP makes 3D printers, our multi-jet fusion technology. So it's possible we could 3D print. Working with Autodesk, our partner, they have model shops all over, like for example, Pier 9 in San Francisco. So we can actually start building these things in our model shop. And depending on what it is, our other partner, Launch Forth, is owned by a company called Local Motors, and they have micro factories, so we could actually manufacture these things. So I'm not making a commitment to do that. It really depends on what kind of submissions come in, what the interest level is, and what the practicality is of doing all that. But I'd love to have the opportunity to actually bring some of these ideas into life here on Earth instead of waiting a couple hundred years for Mars.
And Dave, I mean, so we talked a bit about the future, and so I've only been at NVIDIA for a short time now. I joined right after SIGGRAPH, where I was with HP just before, and we launched the ZVR backpack. Having been at NVIDIA a short time, I've already seen a lot of amazing things, and of course, having been a partner at HP before. But all of this deep learning and AI stuff, autonomous driving, or autonomous vehicles, really. And so, if I think about what the GPU is capable of today, it blows my mind. It's absolutely
incredible,
unbelievable. But what is that going to be like in the future? And how do you think about AI and things like that if you were to bring this into concept art?
Well, it's amazing when you think about it, as you said. If the GPUs have computer vision, for instance, and they're detecting terrain and anticipating what the suspension has to do in advance, that suspension, for instance, would be designed in a CAD system, right? So you're going to visualize that, and then you may design the materials, have new materials to support that vehicle, and then you design a really, form-fitting shape around that. As you translate that from a CAD system where the function starts, you can do that by framing the camera certain ways, in perspective, creating a rich line work drawing that presents your idea, presents your concepts, right? And that's the kind of thing that I think would be great to see, just those raw ideas that are coming in, using new materials, using the GPUs for detecting surface terrain anomalies that will be on the surface of Mars.
Right. Yeah, and we have high-rise terrains from Fusion for the 40 square kilometers of Mars. They were done by the Reconnaissance Orbiter, actually NASA satellite imagery, basically, right?
Yeah, so the team from Fusion Media Group, led by Julian Rees, created the Mars VR game, and some of you may have it because we provided download keys, Mars 2030, we provided download keys for the first 10,000 people who registered for HP Mars and Planet. And the terrain in that VR game is actually modeled photogrammetrically based on high-resolution NASA imagery and done in collaboration with the folks at JPL and other groups inside of NASA. So we actually get to start our VR project with that terrain
It's awesome.
in Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's,
those-
that saves us a lot of effort, and it looks great, and it's accurate for the Mars Valley's 40 square kilometers. And now our challenge is to build the built environment around it: the buildings, the infrastructure, the transportation, the people, the vehicles, etc.
That
I think we
that
just have some
terrain's
questions pop in.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
cool. That terrain's now published on the Launchforth site. So if you go to the Technicolor VR Experience site and the Files tab, there are 25 tiles representing the 40 square kilometers, right? Different tiles that have the actual terrain that we're going to develop these models and the future architecture and vehicles to travel on. So that terrain's available for download and modeling on top of or terraforming.
Yeah, and so it's about realism. This is, how are we going to solve the problems or the things that come up by putting 1 million humans on Mars? And so I'm really looking forward to later on in the rendering phase, if you're using NVR, if you're using Video VR Works, or you're using NVIDIA MDLs, like just real world materials to make your designs, your concepts, everything as realistic as possible. And that's really going to help inform what happens on Mars in the future.
Yeah. So a couple questions here that I'm getting. I keep looking to the side here. I'm looking at my screen for the questions you guys are submitting, not just distracted by something else happening at HP. So a question about natural disasters and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, well, Mars has like dust storms and stuff, and Mars has different gravity than Earth. So, and cosmic radiation. So, we need to.
Lack of oxygen.
Yeah, that's it. So we need to
Frozen water.
design all these
Right.
things into the VR experience when we get there. And David is going to help us figure out how to do that. So just to be clear, the VR experience is we're starting to think about it now,
Right.
But we're not starting to actually do the work yet because we have to get some of the 3D models done,
Yeah,
which start
yeah.
in the 3D modeling phase.
Concept
But
model.
Mars 2030 does have the physics, does have the dust storms, does have the gravity, and the high-rise terrains we talked about.
Yeah, there is some code there, and we can embellish it. So, for example, one idea that might be really cool is cosmic radiation simulation built into Unreal, based on some science. So, folks are asking about the science. Where do I go to find out about the science of Mars? So, start with the How It Works magazine that we have available for free download. But then also go to NASA. They have a fantastic set of resources. I believe also we have a bunch of links in one of the blog posts. Some links over to I believe it's nasa.gov/Mars, and there's a ton of fantastic information. And also ask our subject matter experts. And we're working to recruit subject matter experts from the space organizations around the world and the companies involved in building things that go up to space. So we should have a lot of help for you. So don't be shy with your questions.
Another
More
question?
coming in, yeah. If you have a great idea you want to submit that's not complete, well, there's a validation period. So you have to submit to qualify for the competition. You have to submit by October 15th, but it doesn't have to be in a state of completion. So then you have, I believe, 2 weeks after October 15th,
October 24th.
October 24th. Okay, so you have until between October 15th and October 24th to finalize it. And the final does have to be done by October 24th. And as I said earlier, if you don't want to do it alone, just form a virtual team and get people to help you.
Yeah, and I mean, you can post some of your earlier concepts sooner and get some feedback from the subject matter experts. So that could be very helpful too.
Yeah, grab photographs, illustrations, kit bash those, tweak the perspective, create a collage that defines your idea. Whether it's from CAD illustrations, from photographs. Just make sure you're not doing any copyright infringement, but get your ideas out there.
And we already did work with Christian Kessler from Technicolor, who did the amazing concept art that you see on the Launchforth page, where you see a backdrop of what Mars could look like in the future.
The cover.
So yeah, it's on the cover of the magazine. We also got 2 additional images from him, one that represented transportation, which looked kind of like a Hyperloop image, and then another one that was a VR image, and there was a vehicle in that as well.
Okay, some people are asking what year. So we intentionally didn't define a year because that would just there's no right or wrong answer to that. So let's just fast forward to sometime in the future where there's 1 million people on Mars. We don't know why they got there. We could use our imagination. We don't exactly know how they got there. We could also try to define that with science. There's lots of possibilities, but we do know that we need to build a home for them. And
There could be human level machine intelligence by then.
There could be.
In 30 years from now.
There could be the singularity by then.
You know, and so we can get there sooner than we think.
Yeah. Let's see, a couple of other questions. Do you want to do earthquakes or whatever, natural disasters, and have fun in the gamification?
Yeah.
Well, that's up to David and you all to have conversations about what.
Could be Alien versus Predator on this crowdsourced level on Mars. You know, who knows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully not. But yeah, we really do want to make this realistic, and so this isn't science fiction. And so for all the film concept artists, and if you're working TV, broadcast, games, we really want you to add a level of realism to it, and maybe we can have some fun later on too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Somebody's commenting on life being underground on Mars. Yeah, I mean, that might help a lot, actually, because you're protected from the
Right.
cosmic radiation.
Radiation.
Right.
But for 1 million people living on Mars, we'd want it to be nice and beautiful.
Absolutely.
Let's design a beautiful
there's-
underground society.
There's the solar power, so you think, how do you harness
Yeah.
all that energy that's coming
Right.
down? Is the
Absolutely.
surface going to be lined with parabolic mirrors focusing that energy into some sort of new energy system? We've got to think outside the box on how to take that energy and develop an ecosystem on a planet so that one day it's a thriving planet like Earth. It's got to support human life sometime in the future. Who knows when an asteroid impact might happen, right? So we need to take this a little bit seriously.
Yeah, let's get to Mars.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just to be clear, this is the concept design competition until November 14th. First submission requirement, submit by October 15th if you want to qualify for the prizes. And then you have until October 24th to do your final submission, and then you will be judged by our amazing panel of judges and by the public, because there's public voting. And you could share your submissions with your friends, family, social media network, and get them to vote for you. And everybody else will be invited to vote as well. So the submission requirement is a bitmap image. It could be a pencil sketch, it could be a beautifully rendered whatever you want. We just need the bitmap. There's a number of different award categories, and you could see them all in the challenge detail page. The next phase is when we get into 3D modeling. And then we're going to actually, when we come out of that phase, we're going to have this incredible library of 3D models, of vehicles, of buildings, etc. Some of them are modeled with like 3ds Max and Maya, and they're non-functional models, and some of them might be modeled with Fusion 360, Inventor, and Revit, and they'll be fully documented 3D models with information that can be used to actually build the building, construction documentation, or manufacture the 3D model from Inventor and Fusion 360. Functional constraints that could be animated, etc. So the third phase is bringing that to life in beautiful renderings, applying the textures, using the NVIDIA graphics technology, doing stills, doing animations, and in parallel, bringing it into kind of virtual existence
Absolutely. It's gonna
with
be amazing.
Technicolor in VR. And this is going to be a fun project. I can't wait to see what comes out of it. Thank you guys so much for all your support and participation. Thank you all.
It's gonna be awesome.
And let's keep in touch. We'll see you on the next live broadcast. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chance. Thanks, Launchport.
VR Dave out.